Hi friends, in this video I want to share with you 3 things that I wish I knew when I was a lot younger. Um, Hopefully by me sharing this, you'll know them and it can save you years of grief, wasted time, confusion, and feeling crazy or having heartache around them. Okay, so the first thing I wish I knew was that incompatibility doesn't necessarily mean anything personal. All right, so this is especially for those who deal with anxious attachment. Sometimes we're not compatible. And this can be romantic, this can be with friends, this can be in all sorts of situations like work situation, roommate situation, whatever it is. There's so many people in the world and so many people that we just might not be compatible with. We all have varying value sets and likes and dislikes and preferences, and sometimes they just clash. And it's really hard when you love a person so much and you want to be with them, but there's something that is hard for them. And I'm sure, like, maybe you've been on the other side of that. Like, you really love somebody, but there's something about them that, like, you can't really find your way around. And it doesn't mean anything about them as a person. It just means that there's an incompatibility there. It doesn't mean that you need to change or that they need to change or that either of you need to like this um, behavior or facet of the other person's character or personality. It might just mean that there may be a better relational dynamic that you're going to both be more comfortable in. I spent so much time, and it gave me so much heartache, right? Like thinking that because I was different than somebody else, or they had a different value set, or a different way of being than me, then and if it wasn't working out, then that meant that something was wrong with me and I needed to change, right? That's where we can cause ourselves so much unnecessary pain and suffering. Ugh, yeah, it's no good. And life and experience, and also healing those parts of myself, like the parts of my inner child that took those things personally. Through had like abandonment wounds and more anxious attachment stuff. Like thinking like, well, if this person really, like, there's meaning that we make behind it, right? Like, oh, if this person actually loved me, then they would accept this about me and be this close to me or be with me. And that's not necessarily true, right? And we can hurt ourselves deeply by having these assumptions, and they're usually subconscious. A lot of times we don't realize that we're actually thinking these things or believing these things. They're like deeply ingrained subconscious beliefs that we adopted when we were very young. Um, so sometimes, like, often incompatibility will rub up against those, and we will kind of knee jerk into these assumptions of, oh, well, I'm not lovable, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of love because this person sees me as, unworthy, or they don't want to be that close to me. When really, like, someone just might have a trigger around something that actually has nothing to do with you. Someone might value quietness and alone time while you value being outside and being with your friends and going to parties and having your partner there. And just because they don't want to join you, it doesn't mean that they don't like you or don't want to be a part of their life. They just might have a different way of operating, or their nervous system might be more sensitive. That's just one example, but I'm sure if you look back through your life, around like different relationships that you wanted to work out that didn't work out, like, it could be helpful to look at that and see where were there incompatibilities, and was that actually personal, or was that just someone's like, this isn't the best fit and I love you, and it's just not a good fit, and that's okay. It actually had nothing to do with you as a human being, had nothing to do with your worth or your value or anything like that. So yeah, understanding that can save you a lot of heartache and grief and regret, and yeah, save you from being really hard on yourself as well. The second thing I wish I would have known when I was a lot younger were the signs of a dysregulated nervous system. Yay. So, so much pain and drama and trauma can be avoided if we understand the signs of our own dysregulation. Usually, if something's triggering to us, rubbing up against an old fear or a wound or is an actual threat, or a perceived threat, it can cause us to go into fight or flight. It can cause us to shut down and freeze, and we can make some pretty silly decisions from there. This is usually the place where we, say things we regret. Our mind fabricates all sorts of crazy stories from these spaces, and we usually act in ways that more often than not tend to become a self-fulfilling, painful prophecy, right? So learning the signs of nervous system dysregulation, like, are you feeling like, is your heart rate elevated? Are you feeling frozen? Are you numbing out in your mind? Do you have static in your brain? Do you feel a lot of heat and energy in your body? Do you feel like an immense amount of pressure underneath your skin? It's a very good thing to study what nervous system dysregulation is and what it feels like, and especially what it feels like to you personally, like how your body tends to deal with it. And then when you feel these symptoms coming up, learning ways to hold yourself and have compassion for yourself and be with yourself in a way that you might take yourself out of the situation and soothe yourself. Like, self-soothing is so important in these situations and can often bring us down from that elevated state where our mind is just going crazy trying to keep us safe and to protect us from threat, whether it's real or not. And if it's not real, which often, it's not, yeah, coming down from that heightened state of dysregulation and soothing ourselves can really help us to just better our relationship with ourselves and with our life and with others. And that way we're not causing a lot of unnecessary problems, which is great. The third thing I wish I would have known when I was younger is that treating other people well does not necessarily mean that they will do the same to me. Yeah, that one's a little tender, right? And this doesn't mean to not treat people well. Like, I firmly believe in treating everybody well. However, there is a childlike assumption that, what goes around comes around in the same, like, in the same circuit, and that's not always true. There are people who take advantage of others who treat them really well, and they will not reciprocate that. And learning that can feel like a loss of innocence, right? We don't want to believe that the world can be unfair or unjust in that way, or that if I show someone a whole lot of love and I'm open and compassionate and, endlessly forgiving to them, that they're going to be the same way to me. Like, that, believing that actually was the source of a lot of grief and heartache. So, yeah, if if I could say anything about that, it's just it's good to see if you have a belief around, like, oh, if I'm good to this person, then they'll automatically be good to me, because if you might find yourself disappointed and continuing to hold on to relationships that are actually harmful for you. Yeah, we don't want that. I don't want that for you. Okay, and then on the coattails of that one, I'll throw a bonus one in there. One of the major things I wish I knew when I was younger were the signs of a cluster B personality disorder. So, yeah, big red flags to watch out for, right? Like, a lot of us have, especially people who identify as empathic, who are very compassionate, who are heart forward and are very open. Oftentimes there is this belief that if we love people enough, or if we're, it's coattails of the last one, right? If we love people enough or compassionate or forgiving enough, then they can transform into being more loving and compassionate to us. And this I like to equate to the Beauty and the Beast story, right? It's kind of the reverse of a lot of Disney stories where, you know, the prince comes in and saves the princess, and this is, you know, the opposite of that. It's like you have someone, and they're in a relationship with someone who is, you know, a beast, a literal beast in the story, and, you know, through enough love and enough care, the beast transforms into this handsome prince. And a lot of us can do a lot of damage to ourselves and torment ourselves by playing out this narrative in our lives. And yeah, that caused me a lot of anguish and put me in some very precarious situations in life. And yeah, understanding that there are people who are challenged in really deep ways with how they are with themselves and with other people, and might not actually be able to treat another person really well, or meet you in that open-hearted place of compassion is a really important thing to understand. And if you have gone through any sort of abusive relationship or have had experience with someone with a cluster B personality type, look into it. It's not the most pleasant thing to have to research. It actually, you know, it sucks. It's not fun. It feels um, mm, it's just not fun. However, it can save you a world of heartache and allow you to recognize those signs early on. That way, you can be more discerning and more wise about how much time and intimacy you give to somebody, or how deeply you let somebody like that into your life. Because as much as, you know, we want to think that, you know, love transforms everything, and even, you know, and in some ways it's true, you know, like people who have really intense behavioral issues and don't treat people well, like, yeah, there's a deficit of love there. But usually it's a deficit of love between the self and the self. And while we do all need love, oftentimes that person actually needs to, like, go into therapy or do work that helps them, like, resolve a split within themselves. And, you know, to be real and frank, empathic and super hyper compassionate boundaryless people also need to do that work as well, because the two attract each other, you know, like, it's just they fit together so well. But that's for another video. So yeah, this was a fun little video prompt that a friend gave me, and I thought it was fun to explore, and it's definitely something I've thought about a lot. Of like, God, man, if if I knew all this stuff when I was a teenager, or even in my 20s, I could have saved a lot of time and saved myself a lot of grief and a lot of anguish and a lot of self-torment. But here we are. I'm in my 40s now, and yeah, I'm using what I learned to help you and other people not waste that much time, and to hopefully see things clearly before yeah, just so they can have a better life and not have to deal with any of that mess. All right, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.